Let us go.
Hello, hello.
How you doing,
So
man?
good to meet you guys. Doing good, doing good. How are you?
We're doing well. Excited to chat. Hair looks fantastic.
Thank you, thank you. I feel like it's like a total mess, but thank you.
No, it's great. So you're the founder of N1, which is an L1 blockchain purpose built for the next generation of apps. So I wonder if you could just give us a high level overview of what N1 is and how it's different than all the other N1 L1s and
Yeah,
L2s out there.
yeah, totally. Maybe I'll start first with the boring part, the tech side, and then close off like how we approach ecosystem and stuff like that. On the tech side, like a few things to note is like one is like we use horizontal scaling, which means that you don't need to worry about like block space, like because like if you run an application, you just have your own environment where you run it in. Like you don't need to share gas and all that stuff with like bazillion apps, like you do it in every single blockchain. Another part is like because like we approach this like horizontal scaling, we also containerize like every application or every environment that we are running, and that allows us like to enable a lot more programming languages. So, for example, TypeScript, Rust, and potentially Python down the line. So that way, like we can actually open up doors for more developers to use like our chain and build unique applications on top of it. And even if like you're running in your separate island, running in TypeScript, you can still send messages basically in milliseconds to everyone else. So it feels like one single big environment, but you just like can forget about MEV, you can forget about everything that's like making blockchain development painful. So that's like a bit like the boring tech side, like which I feel like people care less and less. But the more interesting part is that our team like was previously building apps on Solana, and so like we actually like care a lot about like application layer, and our whole journey to N1 was like meant to be there because like we spent time building apps and realized like building apps in crypto sucks. So let's build something better. And because of that, like we are not doing that traditional open ecosystem approach where everyone can join, where everyone can build whatever they want. We actually start off like with closed doors, and we are incubating or building in house like every single app that's going to launch. We obviously embed their revenue sharing. We also embed like some kind of like economic structure that makes sense for us, and we're not doing it as for free. And so that way, like we can actually bootstrap something that's like really, really good, and we can onboard users early. And from our point of view, it's better to have like 3 killer apps than like 100 bad apps. So I'll stop there, but because I can go on and on about that.
Well, I'll give you that chance for sure. I'm curious if you could just outline like the trade-offs, be they technical or otherwise, that say developers will have to be aware of building on N1 versus maybe some of the other options that are out there. Like, what's the steel man for
Yeah.
maybe why you wouldn't want to build on N1?
Yeah, I think like I'll preface it in general. Like the way I think about blockchains, like they really need only two blockchains. Like one of them is like World War III bulletproof system where like tomorrow we invade like any country on earth and like everything goes down. Like I want to be able like to send like transaction through. That means like I don't want to have like any decentralized like any centralization whatsoever. I want it to be like super decentralized in terms of supply and stuff like that. Like so that's like one type of blockchain where I think like a lot of traditional ones are headed or competing for. Like that's like the purpose of Bitcoin from my point of view. Um, but obviously the downside there is that like this blockchain is terrific for like World War III use case, but hopefully we will never get there. It's just like contingency plan. And from my point of view, like I'm a lot more excited to build like for what we need today. And I think that's like the where the type 2 blockchain comes in. And from our point of view, what it should look like, it's like centralized execution. Like it uses like the most innovative code there is, like the most innovative infrastructure. Like it's not bottlenecked by like Raspberry Pi, let's say. It's like really tries like to run all finance on chain, and it has like this decentralized layer for verification. So you have like all this like nodes spread out, and all they do is like occasionally verify if something goes wrong and guarantee that like yeah, maybe like the centralized execution went wrong like an hour ago, but we caught that, and like you still are not losing money. You're just like bottlenecked by time. And so that's like the second time. Like from our point of view, it's like terrific. Like compromise where you can essentially replace PayPal, replace Visa, replace like Nasdaq and everything else, because like you don't need to worry about like telling people, hey, like let's start trading equities, but remember that like someone can MEV you like and create a jitter bundle like while you're trading and try to convince them to move over, right? But at the same time, there is like some sense of decentralization, and that's like exactly what we are building. We're building this second blockchain where we think like Solana falls short because it does have like all the MEV, all the limitations of limited block space, where every single other one also has problems, but we don't. And obviously, like I said, like we are not the blockchain for World War III, we're a blockchain for today, and we're really trying to match execution and everything else. And so if you're a developer who wants to build something like that, like something that's like will stand the test of time and like nuclear warheads like will start flying around, like you should probably don't build on us. But if your goal is like consumer, if your goal is like real finance, like you should build with us.
So you wrote a post recently talk about how L1s are thinking about their ecosystems wrong because they're operating like infrastructure companies instead of the financial networks that you kind of think they should be. So I'm interested in digging into what the distinction there is in your mind and why it matters.
Yeah, I mean, essentially, like when like we label every crypto layer as this like infrastructure, like to me, like the exact parallel, like you're competing with AWS, right? Like you're essentially like go deploy your application on top of us, and maybe like as a company you have some sort of premium for decentralization, which everyone actively questioning, and you're kind of competing for the market for Bitcoin, and like no one can say like you're more decentralized than Bitcoin. So what's your premium worth? And let's being realistic is like most of the ones like are still even today like quite centralized. So they don't even have that premium in reality. So to me, it is like if you're building like infrastructure for finance, you're AWS, but you can only serve financial companies. And let's like ignore even the fact that like a lot of like validators are running on AWS, so like they're like AWS wrapper. But to me, that market is small, right? Like AWS like serves like so many companies, right? And Amazon, what's like it worth, like right, like it worth like $1 trillion+ like as a company, and you want to serve like a fraction of that and also use like AWS like in the back end. So to me, it's like very small market to approach, and 2021 made us believe that like we can just convince people that like everything will be worth like so much, so like we can just like forget about this like logical inconsistency. So and now we are getting proven wrong like time and time again. So we think like you cannot be building infrastructure company, and you cannot keep charging users like even 1 cent per transaction, right? Like we are probably sending each other like bazillion network requests. Like imagine if you paid like 1 cent for each like frame that we send, even more. That's like unacceptable. So those fees like should go down to zero. And so given all of that, like you're like, let's forget all this like old model and figure out like a better system. And to us, it was like, let's not just focus on like infrastructure layer, let's focus on application layer, especially because we came to crypto to build apps. And that's like how we approach it. Essentially, like we're not here like to build the most performant blockchain layer. It's like more of like secondary priority. Our first priority is like, we need this app, we are building for this application, we are launching with this application. And then we have like application 2. Like, and it's always a process like, okay, first, like we need this use case, like let's find a founder, can't find a founder, we'll build it in-house. Or like we bring in a founder, incubate it, work together, and tailor our infrastructure for that specific use case. So you're not like an open guard. And I think like it's like very different from like how other ecosystems like operate and build. They're just like, you're building this like cool technology and people will come and build. You're like, we are building apps and now we need infrastructure to like that will sustain it.
Okay, so how should we think about value flow back to N1 in this new model?
Yeah, I mean, there's like a lot of stuff to figure out. Like, I think like I don't want to answer like a lot of this question just yet because like we will be unraveling. But for us, it's like we want to make sure that N1 is closely tied with every single application out there. Like some of the apps that we're going to launch are like purely N1, and our goal is like to make sure that like they're completely like integrated within like N1 itself, and they're not like a side thing that's like completely independent. And there are some other which are incubated, and you still have like to figure out like how all of this like economics and stuff will work, but it will be very different from what you see out there.
Okay, so reading between the lines there, we will own some of the core applications and probably charge fees on that, and then you'll be owning a piece of a bunch of the apps that are launched on N1, and so it's this maybe quasi venture chain meets payments chain, or monetize some of the apps and own some of them.
Exactly. That's kind of like the approach of kind of like building products and figuring out like what's the best structure. Like to us, it was just like we cannot like continue operating model of like we're just like charging fees per request. Like we're not AWS for finance. Like we're more like we want to be financial network. We want to be the next JPM. We don't want to be the next Amazon. So
I mean,
that's kind of the thinking.
Product studios have, I guess, notoriously been very difficult to get right, and I think it's sort of this idea that, it can make sense to really put your fingers on the scale, or if you're able to really find the breakthrough killer use case, but that most likely there's a lot of other smart people out there who are far smarter than you, even if you have a very smart team. So I'm sort of curious where your confidence in the strategy comes from, based on the history of these types of businesses.
Yeah. I mean, I think like, first of all, like we're not trying to do something easy. I think like that's not our goal. Like our thinking as well is like, also revolves around like if we want to be the next like number one place like to build applications and number one place for finance, we have to make bets like that other people are not willing to make. We have to like be aggressive. We have to be determined that like we need to go this route because like no one else will take this route. So obviously I will not like create like this impression that what we're doing is so obvious everyone should do it. Like there are obviously risks, but why we think like we win, like I think like from our point of view, we're like trying to be laser focused. We're not like traditional venture studio where we have like 20 people in our office, like all trying to build different things, right? We think very deeply, like why we need this, like how does like application A help application B? How does this help application C? How does this flow happen? And how can this like be create a flywheel, like essentially within ecosystem? Like to us, like we're not trying to build completely disjointed pieces of the puzzle, more like, okay, we want to build like one big puzzle and there's like a few things that will like fit together and help each other, and once we have like one thing working, like the other one will be a lot easier to like take off, like and improve like the flow there.
Interesting, man. All right, well, yeah, I have so many more questions, but we're out of time here with you today. I think that's I love hearing very high conviction in new directions, and I think that's clearly where you guys are leaning into. So you got me more intrigued, and I think maybe we'll have to have you back on when we get to see some things out in the public from you all, unless there's something out there that people can go play around with today.
No, I would say like keep your eyes on the timeline. We are like in the final stages. Like we finalized like all the audits that we wanted to do before launch. Right now is just like polishing steps, and like it like last 1% is like the most difficult one. So we are at that stage, and we'll have like some new updates very, very soon.
Amazing, Dima. Thanks for hanging out with us today, and best of luck.
No, absolute pleasure, Jess.
Thanks, Dima. Peace.
Take care, guys.